Premier Gospel.
Joel Murray, positive, out of Trinidad and Tobago, artist, songwriter, producer, husband, father. You got a lot on your plate.
Yes, I do, right?
You got a lot on your plate, and we're doing all that. You still had time to put out your 4th studio album, just gone on the 13th of November. Wow. Congratulations.
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit, we're going to talk quite a bit about the album and especially the album launch. But before we get into that, I kind of wanted to touch base with you. So since the last time you were here in the UK, so much has happened, especially just in 2020. You know, obviously we've had COVID happening, which is just, it's affected the world. How have you been, your family, and just Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, we've been able to manage the pandemic so far in our country. Our Prime Minister, he initiated a lockdown really early in the year, and that has helped to kind of buffer, you know, all the casualties that could have been as it relates to doing, you know, just recovering from the pandemic. So I especially like the fact that that, you know, we had the time to really spend at home with family, you know, in the midst of everything. You know, that was one of the positive outcomes. And, you know, just that time to really just get closer to your family, because most people are working for most of their lives, you know.
Yes.
And when you think about the pandemic allowing everybody to be in one space for a larger portion of the day, you know, it's like you get to learn people again. You get to understand where they are at in life, you know, for all the times that you would have missed out on the intimate conversations.
Yeah.
You know, so the pandemic actually helped me to draw even closer with my family, just understanding I could get to understand my son a bit more in a capacity that I didn't know before, you know. So it was a beautiful experience this year amidst all that was going wrong in the world.
Yeah, definitely. So you had time to kind of embrace the family a bit more.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So here's the other thing that happened. So COVID happened, and then, you know, the killing of George Floyd happened in America. So then the Black Lives Movement was kind of highlighted even more again worldwide. What was the protesting was happening in America and in the UK and in many countries? What was it like in Trinidad at that time?
It was the same. There were a lot of protests happening in Port of Spain. Police had to get involved because I think that, you know, aside from it just being something happening in America, it was a race issue that still plagues the entire globe today. You know, a lot of people face racial tensions. I mean, just when I was traveling to the UK, this was a couple of years ago, the air hostess, you know, they were, you know, treating me differently simply because of race, you know, and it was one of the first times that I actually experienced it, you know, firsthand, where, you know, you shouldn't even be in first class. You know, that was the comment that they made, you know.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't a pleasant experience at all. So, you know, I actually identified with it on that level, no matter how small it might be. But in Trinidad, a lot of people have a lot of relatives in the US and in different parts of the entire globe, and, you know, they identified with that particular movement, especially this year and in that scenario.
Yeah. And another thing I was reading about just in Trinidad and Tobago itself, that there was some issues with racial tension where it came to, was it politics or the election?
It was the elections, yeah.
Yeah, which was strange to me, because I think generally speaking, when we think about the Caribbean, we think, oh, well, we're all Black people and what have you. So what kind of racial tension can there be? What was that about?
Well, our country is multiculturalism, and, you know, it's like, it's basically 50% Blacks and 50% East Indian, you know. So there was just this rift between the Blacks and the East Indians that kind of blew out of proportion, but it was so public that it just kind of made you see that racism is not necessarily the root, but there is a lack of love in general humanity that manifests itself, you know, in racism, that manifests itself in hatred, that manifests itself in the way that we treat each other. Because if race was the problem, then we wouldn't have had blacks killing blacks or whites killing whites.
Mm,
It would have just been across the board, but because it still exists within our own race, I think that the issue is not necessarily first race, but it is self-love. I think that
mm.
if it is that we lack self-love, then we don't take time to value our own selves, and we don't value the lives of other people as well.
Right, right. And how do
Yeah.
we make things better going forward so we don't have to keep having these conversations?
I think I think just maybe just continuing to spread the gospel, because it's the gospel that could change, it's Christ that could change
Yeah.
the heart of a person. And dealing with the heart of a person is one of the most intricate things that someone can do,
Hmm.
because you could cause somebody to like something or like a song or like, but if it is that you don't get into the heart of that person and cause them to make a heart change, then it would all be just for a time.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You are 100% right. And speaking of the heart, let's talk about Heart Wired, your fourth studio album launched on Friday the 13th, which for some people, people, they kind of feel like Friday the 13th is not a good day to do anything. But it was an amazing day for this
Yes, it was.
album launch. So, first of all, let's talk about this 2-hour production,
Right.
absolutely outstanding, just amazing, with four very different settings in
Yes.
each part. What was the concept behind that? How did you even come up with that idea?
Because I wanted to showcase the concept of different rooms,
Hmm.
to represent the different areas of my life. So the first room was going to be the throwback room, which is where we were outside with DJ Christ Child. We went up the truck. We were just giving you songs like Sweeter, Never Let Go, Hold Me Closely, all those songs that would have been the foundation of the ministry. That was the first album. And then we moved into the love room, which would have
Hmm.
been where which would have been where I would have interacted with my wife, because I dedicated a song on the album to her. It's called Ride With You.
Hmm.
And she was there doing a photo shoot. So we just kind of bummed it up and make sure that we just get in there and just have that moment on camera, so people could actually see that, hey, behind the ministry, that there is still passion and desire, and that relationship with the spouse is just growing and blossoming. It's been 6 years now that I'm married, and I've loved every 6 year of it so far.
Oh,
So
awesome.
from there, we went into the worship room, which is where you got a chance to hear some of the new songs that are worship centered on the album, like You Are Everything and Healing in
Mm.
the Valley. Yeah, so those songs are really close to me. It was written in the space of this year where we experienced so much, because initially when the album was supposed to be launched in March, Healing in the Valley wasn't going to be on the album.
Really?
But it was through this pandemic experience that I felt like if I was going through one of my worst valleys, and I
Mm.
actually was able to pen this song. God was just speaking the words into me. A Sunday, I just woke up and I was just like, Lord of the hills and the valleys, and just started to sing it out of my spirit, just saying, wondrous in all of your works.
Yeah.
I said, in the desert, I'm gonna wait on your shower, which means that I know that in this world we shall have tribulation, but the word says to be of good cheer, because God has overcome the world. So I'm
Mm.
just speaking from the place of God making dry bones live again. In Ezekiel, the word says that he said, what shall I say to these? You understand?
Yes,
What shall I
yes.
say? What shall I say? And then the Lord said, you say to these dry bones to come alive, come alive. You speak, breathe breath into them. And then the word says, you just started to hear the bones coming together, packs and the bones, and then the ligaments and the tendons and it's just amazing, the word
Preach.
of God. Yeah, yeah, man.
No, honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed the full 2 hours. There wasn't one moment where I thought, okay, I'm getting bored now. Because I really like that you took us back to where it first began. And I
Yeah,
was thinking, and those albums were really good albums, but I can also see your development where I feel like you're trying new things. Like the two worship songs, I did not see
yeah.
those coming. And on every album, there's something which you do. I'm like, I didn't see that coming. those
Right,
two
right,
worship
right.
songs, outstanding. And the setting for that was so beautiful as well. It was really,
Thank you.
really pure just to hear you singing, and the BVs there and the guitarist, just amazing, amazing,
Yes.
amazing. So you mentioned the love room real quick.
Yeah.
So you serenaded your beautiful wife. And I love talking to you about her because I see nothing apart from teeth when you talk about her. It was really nice to see that. And as because I've been married a couple of years as well, so I really enjoy seeing Christian couples
Yes.
share their love publicly, and for it to be
Yes.
genuine as well. You know, sometimes as church folk we go on like we don't love our spouses, or like it must be done privately. Whereas I'm
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, let's show the world and show everyone like Christian marriages are fun too. Do you think it's important with you being, I think I see you as a role model. So do you think it's important for you as a role model to show that side of you as well?
Yeah, well, part of my vision that the Lord gave me for my ministry is, to share the heart of Christ through my lifestyle, through my music, and through my character.
Mm-hmm.
So because my music alone is not going to preach, if people are just going to be watching to see how you move, how you treat them when they meet you up in public, they want to see how your interaction is, if it is that you're really genuine, if it is that you really know the word, if it is that you're really a man after God's own heart. And, so they could see just by the way that I treat my spouse, that could minister to somebody in
Mm-hmm.
a way that a song might not be able to, in a
Mm,
way that character might not be able to, just that interaction. So people have been seeing how Christian young men interact with their wives, and
mm.
they could be blessed by that. That in itself is like a testimony.
Yeah.
So my wife, if you know my wife, she's such a private person. She don't want to be seen anywhere. She don't want to interact with it. She's just in the background. She loves the background. So to do that and have her being there is just amazing.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful to see. It was really beautiful to see. And I love that you shared that part of you with all of us. You know, I think it's important that we see that. So let's talk about the last room.
Yeah, the
What was that?
last
The
room
the
was
band room.
the band room. Yeah, yeah.
First of
This.
all, hats off to the band. Big up the
Yes.
band. Tell them me says so, them bad. And then
I
also
will. I will.
BVs, the backing vocalists, they don't always get recognized, but I recognize them. They were tight.
Yeah, yeah. They
Really,
were. They
really
were.
tight. So it was nice to see you with that energy in that room. And
But
I had seen
by
some
then I
of
was
the.
tired. Definitely.
I could imagine. I could imagine. But one of the things I thought was like, it seemed like you gave your everything, especially towards the end. I'm like, he's got to be tired now. But you gave your everything, like you had 10,000 people in the audience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How
Because
was you able to conjure that up?
well, it was difficult in the rehearsals at first because to know that there was nobody physically in front of you, it's like a whole change of scenery where
Mm-hmm.
you are giving all this effort to a camera in front, and you don't know who is going to be watching behind this camera. So you are just, yeah, it could be no one. Nobody could log in, at the end of the day. So you could be pouring your heart out and there's just no one on the other end receiving, but you have to just do it by faith and just trust that God is going to just supply the audience. Because if it is that He's given you these songs and this ministry and these ideas to do this 2 hour production, and it's just like, He must gonna provide somebody to look at it, some audience, even if
Mm,
it's not live. It's gonna be up on YouTube. It's gonna be up on Facebook, and people are gonna log in and they're gonna see, and they're gonna still be blessed, even if they are blessed 2 days later, or
yeah,
1 year later, or 1 month later.
yeah.
So it was uh, it's just phenomenal to actually just have an idea in your mind come to life, and it's just ridiculous.
Have you gone back and watched it yet?
Like 5 times.
Like I've watched it a couple of times because I wanted to capture some of the videos. It was really, really good. And there was the guy that interviewed you, was his name JT?
Jamie Thomas, yeah.
Yeah. He said, so because of the accent, sometimes Hot Wired was sounding like Hot Wired. And I was
Yeah, yeah,
saying,
yeah.
well, this is actually a Hot Wired album. That's really,
Yeah, yeah.
really, really good. I'm going to wrap things up with you really quickly, but before I do that, I wanted to, say to you that obviously for 2020, with a lot of people being locked down, especially being at home, the media has been able to kind of control our minds, and we've been looking for entertainment in other places. And
Right.
unfortunately, it seems like the media controls. We've been watching the news a lot, and we're hearing reports about people dying and everything that's going
Yeah.
on. And I know the concept of Heartwired is about the reprogramming of our heart. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's perfect for this time. I know the initial
Yeah.
plan was to release it earlier, but this
Yeah.
time right here, I think is God's
Yeah.
appointed
It's
time
good.
for it.
Yeah. 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 I think so too. Yeah.
100%. So what's the main message that you want listeners to take away from this album?
Well, just as when Samuel was in the house of Jesse and he was about to anoint the next king of Israel, and he went and he was gonna reach out to one of Jesse's sons, and then the Lord had to rebuke him and say, "Hey, don't I have rejected this one. Don't look at his outward appearance.
Mm,
Don't look at his statue. Don't look at the way he's built. Don't look at his appearance. And many times, us as human beings, we tend to just judge a book by the cover. We look at the appearance of another person
yeah.
and we judge them based on that. I mean, this is where racism stems from. This is where hatred stems from. This is where all the problems of life stem from. Just outward appearance and
Mm,
our inability to see the heart. But the word says that man looks at the outward appearance and God looks at the heart. So this album is really geared to really encourage persons to look beyond. If it is that we could borrow the eyes of God in a lot of situations, we could see a different perspective on
yeah.
negative things, on things that might seem like there's no value, on people that we might think have no value. We could actually see from where God sees. And when we could see from where God sees, we begin to realize how valuable and how precious we are in His eyes.
Positive. I could not have asked you to wrap it up any better way. Thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure catching up with you. I cannot wait till we can come together once again and I can see you on stage delivering this album, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Give my love to your wife, your lovely wife and family.
Premier Gospel. Premier Gospel.